Hello there, CC friends. Welcome to Unit 10 of the Math Map, Intersected Lines. So this will just be a quick little introductory video. This was such a cool unit. There's just a lot of different topics in here that are great. In a way, I felt for the lower levels and even looking over the complex, it's kind of nice because it takes that step back and some of the things are a little easier to understand and grasp. A lot of it relates to angle measures, lines, still points on the coordinate grid. And I would say the whole thing is pretty valuable in many ways. But what I'm going to do is record a few videos, and the first one will be just kind of going over if you had to streamline and say, okay, what am I going to do first? What those things would be in this unit that are not just important but for them to know at like the seventh grade level, for example, but also are going to help them practice some of the skills maybe they have learned or maybe that are still challenging for them. That gives them a nice review. For example, I used it for a review for my daughters. There were certain places where they had to add angles or subtract angles when, especially for my oldest who was doing the fractions, and she's 8. So for her, when we lined it up and we were subtracting, she had to think about it for a minute because, we need to still review those things. Now, hopefully, subtraction isn't as much of an issue for your seventh grader, but for her, oh, I have to borrow. Oh, I have to do some of these things that I was repetitively doing in some of the more traditional style curriculums. So it was a good review. And again, as you're working with your child, don't panic if all of a sudden a skill that they had, they're kind of needing some reminders on, because this is a whole new way of teaching math and it layers. So though they're learning some higher concepts, they might still need that review of the lower concepts. But, I encourage you, what I'm doing with my daughter is I'm kind of jotting down those things as they identify or not identify, but as they like show up as we're working through the content of, oh, okay, we're still struggling a little bit with remembering to borrow in that process because she likes to jump ahead and try to figure it out. And she's crossing stuff out without thinking it through of which one might, which digit or which place value do I need to borrow and which ones are we good? And, just those little things that kids struggle with as they're continuing to learn the process. So I'm just jotting down little things of, okay, we might need some more review in that area. Stuff like decimals, because she's never worked with decimals. She never worked with fractions. She's coming into third grade, and the fractions is geared for fourth grade, where they would have already had decimals in this curriculum. So things like that, just writing down, because there's 30 weeks of this. 2 of the weeks are review weeks, and in those review weeks, I plan to review some things. There's also break weeks in community at CC, so I know I'm going to have more weeks than I will math map, and I'm just going to do some extra review in those areas. So I encourage you in that, if all of a sudden you're like, okay, they're really struggling with this, and I feel like they should know this at seventh grade if you're doing the complex, then write it down, and that can be something to work on later. So that's my word of encouragement with this. Just as introduction, intersected lines, before we were kind of introducing the two-dimensional, the X and the Y, the coordinate plane. So a lot of these weeks are very much, I would say, there's a focus of very beginner algebra, and then geometry and some beginner trigonometry. So that's kind of what these next units are going into. And so it might be very foreign. They might not have seen a lot of this yet, or depending on the curriculum you're using, it might be, oh, this is easy because I've seen it before. So either way, we'll get into, in the next video, just some areas and some problem sets that will be great for them to work through. And then I'll probably do 1 or 2 more videos with just a few concepts that might be good to review. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you soon.